Sushruta for NEET is now available on the Google Play Store. Try it out for free.
Good morning, everybody. Let me take from the point where you have stopped in the last class with reference to genetic code. Mutations and genetic code. Right? I hope you see the screen. The relationships between genes and the DNA are best understood by mutation study. How? Let us see. You have already studied what is mutation and its effect in the genetics chapter. Effects of large deletions or rearrangement in a segment of DNA are easy to understand. It may result in a loss or gain of a gene. So, the function of the gene. How the gene functions? How you will know about that the gene is functioned? Come on. How you learn that a gene has functioned?
Loss or gain.
Pardon? Loud?
Result in the
As
loss
it is
or gain.
expressed
How the gene is expressed?
by producing the proteins.
By producing protein. Who said it? Pratiraj?
Rakesh,
Rakesh. By producing the protein. So always you should remember, whenever we say that a gene is expressed, always gene expression is by the production of the protein. If the gene gets mutated, what will happen? It produces wrong protein, not the protein which is required. So whether it's mutated or not, a particular gene, whenever it is expressed, it has to produce one or the other protein, structural protein or functional protein. The effect of point mutation is explained here. Now, let us see what. So I want just let me see whether there are anyone in waiting in the room. Yes. I request all of you to be there before time. Okay. Anyone got admitted directly? Yourself? Hello? Whether any one of you could get in without myself letting you in?
Sir, I got in immediately.
Who?
Navya, sir.
Navya, I only admitted.
Me too, sir.
Blessy, I think, okay. I wanted to know whether that is enabled, that admitting yourself. Okay, let us see. Doesn't matter. So now coming back. The effect of point mutation is discussed here. A classical example of point mutation, you know very well, is a change of single base pair. Remember, not a single base. Always you will mistake point mutation. Best example is a change of single base pair pertain to sickle cell anemia. Not a single base pair. In the gene for beta globin chain that results in a change of amino acid residues glutamate to valine. Whenever you say amino acid residue means it is amino acid. So that results in change of amino acid residue glutamate or glutamic acid by valine. What is that? It results in a disease called sickle cell anemia. I think I might have told you. Others said, again, let me remind you that what is that? Who will tell me what is sickle cell anemia? It is replacement of glutamic acid in which position of a beta chain?
Sixth position.
Sixth
Sixth
position.
position by valine. Effect of point mutations that inserts or deletes a base in a structural gene can be better understood by following simple example. Let us see that. Consider
Sir, Sarvatam is waiting.
how you know?
Sir, we are in Australia, sir.
No, he has messaged you. Let him message to me, okay, here afterwards, so that I can see that and immediately I can admit. Okay, right, good. I am not finding fault in you. Okay, right. So, this effect of point mutation, yeah, Consider a statement that is made of the following words, each having three letters like a genetic code. You must remember, you have already heard that each genetic code is no how many worded? Each genetic how many lettered? It is a three lettered. Each genetic code or codon is a three lettered. Now let us see. You have Ram has a red cap. Meaningful, you can understand. Ram has a red cap. So all this represents what in our genetic code? In our codon, all this represents what? Come on. All these alphabets
Nitrogen bases.
represents what?
Nitrogen bases.
Yeah, nitrogen bases. This represents nitrogen bases. Okay. If we insert a letter B in between HAS and red, has and red, we are inserting a letter here. What letter we are inserting? B. Okay. That means just like a letter, you are going to introduce one base. If you insert a letter B in between HAS and red and rearrange the statement, it would read as follows. Ram has BREDCAP. So it becomes so meaningless. Earlier you had Ram has red cap. Let us consider that this particular three letter codes for one amino acid. These three letters codes for another amino acid. These three codes for one more, like that. Systematically whatever amino acid we wanted, that all gets pooled in and that protein gets synthesized. Now what has happened? You are adding one base in between and you are changing this already existing perfectly functioning system. So similarly, if we know, if you now insert two letters at the same place, say BI, now it would read Ram has BIREDCAP. Now we insert three letters together, say BIG. The statement would read Ram has big red cap. I hope you understand my point. So in this way, if at all you have a particular arrangement of nitrogen base, three nitrogen bases together forming one codon, and this codon coding for a particular type of amino acid, and that particular type of amino acid in that particular arrangement is very much required to synthesize a protein. The moment you add any new base, one or two base, all these already existing perfectly functioning system gets disturbed. Are you following me? Are you following me, Navya?
Yes, sir.
Siddesh?
Yes, sir.
Siddesh?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Navya, you are following. Okay? Right. So, now look here. The same exercise can be repeated by deleting a letter R-E red. Now, one by one, and rearrange the statement to make a triplet one. Ram has what we have from red, we have removed R. Then we have removed E. Then we have removed D. So it will become Ram has EDCAP, Ram has DCAP, Ram has a cap. The conclusion from the above exercise is very obvious. What is that? If at all you add any nitrogen base, the existing code for the synthesis of a particular protein gets disturbed. Or if at all you add anything or delete anything, it will be disturbed. Understood? Now what I'm telling, now you are preparing one payasam. Okay, you are preparing a payasam. Who will prepare? Tell me. Navya, can you prepare payasam? So you want to prepare payasam. Which payasam you are going to prepare? Tell me. Quick. Janani, who will tell?
The
You want
Sevai
to-
one, sir.
Pardon?
The Sevai one.
Shavige payasa. Okay, what all you want? Shavige. Then quick.
Dry
What do you want?
fruits, milk,
Dry fruit. Then
sugar,
sugar. Then
milk.
milk. Then
I told
Yes, sir.
you, sir.
huh? Milk. Okay, right. You want to put ghee? Okay, no. Okay, milk. Now this is the element. So by this, Navi is going to prepare Shaviya Paisa for all of us. Now what I'm doing, I am just adding here in between sugar and milk. I am adding here, Navya, I am adding here, what is that? Hingu. You know what is hingu? You know what is Hingo? Hingo?
No,
You
sir.
know? What?
Hing.
Pardon?
Asafoetida.
Asafoetida. Who is telling this?
Janani.
Janani. We are adding Hingu there. Yeah, as much as sugar. Navya, Hingu nodidya, kelidya.
Yes,
Hingu.
yes, sir. I know,
Yeah,
sir.
we are adding here. Can you eat that payasam?
No, sir.
Gone case. Right? So this is one thing. So that's all. I am doing anything. And one more thing. She is preparing this payasam and I am removing this from there. No. Can you call it payasam?
No, sir.
So do you understand? In this way, addition of any nitrogen base or removal of any nitrogen base, it results in a production of a wrong protein. When the wrong protein is produced, that our body functions gets disturbed. Understood? Clear? Clear? Kavita, Nadira, Navya, Jayasri,
Yes, sir.
Vismita. Is it clear? Blessy?
Yes, sir.
Shall I go ahead? Shall I go ahead? Hey, Kanisa has not come. Kanisa? Kanisa,
Yes, sir.
have you come? Is it Kanisa?
No, sir, she's not there.
Okay. Why she is not there? Kanisa. Aisha is there? Aisha is not there. I wanted to take the attendance, okay? I wanted to see who are all there. Who are all there? Okay, Harshavardhan is there. Harshavardhan. Harshavardhan is there. Janani, Jayasri, Kavi, Vishwas. Vishwas, Rakesh, Sarvottam, Siddesh is there, Vismita is there, Vismita. I've taken your name, Vismita, yes. Okay. So anyone else, bless you. Charan is there. Okay, I shall call your name and you must tell me someone is missing in my list. I am just calling your name and if at all your name is not called, you please let me know. Janani, Nadira, Namrata, Blessy, Kavita, Jyoti, Jayasri, Navya, Rakesh, Vismita, Siddesh. Navya got to 2 times entry. Okay. Harshavardhan, Vishwas, Sarvottam, Charan. Whose name I have left? Chinmay. Then. Another name I have left? Any more? Okay, right. So, I hope it is understood. Right? Now, insertion or deletion of 1 or 2 bases changes the reading frame. Just like what you have seen, Ram has a red cap, how it got changed. Like that, insertion or deletion of 1 or 2 bases changes the reading frame from the point of insertion or deletion. Insertion or deletion of 3 or its multiple bases, insert or delete one or multiple codon, hence one or multiple amino acid, and the reading frame is unaltered from that point onwards. Insertion or deletion of 3 or its multiple bases, that means 6, 9, like that. Insert or delete one or multiple codon, it will add one, delete or add one or multiple codon. Multiple codon means you are inserting 3 letter word. Hence, one or multiple amino acid and the reading frame remains unaltered from that point onwards. Okay, only that point there will be change. After that, it remains same. Such mutations are referred to as frame shift insertion or deletion mutation. Always ask a question, what is frame shift insertion or deletion mutation? Now, you know, Ram has a cap. Ram has a cap. Okay. Ram has a red cap. If you remove this, you have deleted this. But after that, this is not getting affected because Ram has a red cap. You have removed a red. Or Ram has cap, you have added a red. So only at that place it will be changed. that amino acid production gets changed or pooling gets changed, but after that it remains the same. So now Ram has cap, Ram has red cap. You have added big 3-letter word. So whenever we add a 3-letter, whenever we add a base with the 3, codon with the 3 bases, only there it changes, but afterwards it remains the same. Prior to that, it remains same. Ram has correct, red cap is correct, but the big you have added. So if at all you add 3-letter bases or 3-letter codon, only at that moment it at that particular place it changes. After that, the codon remains same. I don't know whether you have followed it or not. So, insertion or deletion of 3 or its multiple bases, that means 6, 9, and 12, insert or delete one or multiple codon, because our codon is made up of 3 bases. Hence, one or multiple amino acid, and the reading frame remains unaltered from that point onwards. Such mutations are referred as frame shift mutation or frame shift insertion or deletion mutation. This forms the genetic basis of a proof that codon is a triplet. Because when you added with the 3 bases, there will be no change after that. So it said that the codon is made up of 3 triplet and it is read in a contiguous manner. Very, very important. What is frame shift mutation? Frame shift mutation, insertion mutation, or deletion mutation. Right? See here. Now insertions or deletions. I am telling. Insertions or deletions are also called frame shift mutation because they shift the reading frame of the genetic message. Look here. Frame shift mutations can change every amino acid that follows the point of mutation and can alter a protein so much that it is unable to perform its normal function. Look here. This is before mutation. What is there? You have AUG, GUA, AUG, CGU, ACC, UUU. Okay? Okay? This is a before mutation. Now what happened? You have added one nitrogen base. So AUG is there. After that, you added one. Now what happened? Instead of CGU, it became UCG. You added here U, so it became UCG. It got changed. Then it becomes UAC. Then becomes CUU. So it gets changed. Insertion, it changes the base sequence there, and it becomes, now when it was AUG, CGU, ACC, UU, the amino acid pooled were arginine, threonine, phenylalanine. Now you see, after that, because of the insertion of nitrogen base, amino acid is now serine, tyrosine, leucine. If at all you remove one, now what happened? Now you have AUG, or here TAC, GCA. Now we have added here one. That is, we have added A here. A here. Now what happens? We are removing G from here. Removing G from here. Once you remove G, now the frame has a CAT, which results in mRNA with the GUA, GGA, which results in mRNA with the CCU. So you have different amino acid getting poured to prepare the protein. Are you following me? This is the insertion, frame shift insertion mutation. This is a frame shift deletion mutation. Are you following me? Chinmayi, Charan, Sarvottam?
Yes, sir.
All of you understood?
Yes, sir.
Navya, Nadira,
Yes, sir.
Kanisa has not come. Vismita,
Yes, sir.
shall I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, DNA, tRNA, the adapter molecule. Very important. Again, question for 4 marks. Prove that the tRNA or explain how that the tRNA is adapter molecule. What is the adapter molecule? From the very beginning of the proposition of code, it was clear to Francis Crick that there has to be a mechanism to read the code. There has to be a mechanism to read the code and also to link it to the amino acid. So we have amino acid and we have coded word, coded message on DNA, and we know DNA is the master of protein synthesis. We wanted to know how DNA is related to amino acid. So, because he wanted to prove that, Francis Crick wanted to prove that, because amino acids have no structural specialities to read the code uniquely. Amino acid cannot read the code. So remember, what is the code? Code is nothing but a language of 3 bases. And whatever you have, we call it a codon. And this codon is present on the mRNA. Right? He postulated the presence of an adapter molecule that would, on one hand, read the code, and on the other hand, would bind to specific amino acid. So, he wanted to postulate an adapter molecule. What it has to do? It has to read the code of code on the mRNA, and on the other hand, you should also have specific site for binding of amino acid. Right? If at all I give you a rough diagram of that, this is what I'm simply writing. Okay? Simply writing. Can you tell me what I'm writing now? What I've written now? Rakesh, what is this structure?
tRNA.
Pardon?
Transfer RNA.
This is tRNA. tRNA. Okay. Sarvottam, can you tell me what are these? Sarvottam? Charan? What are these? Charan? Sarvottam? Pardon? No. They are called?
Anticodons.
Anticodon. Codon is on? Codon is on? Codon is on?
mRNA.
mRNA. mRNA is codon. tRNA is anticodon. And what is this? Duty? What is this place? What is this part called? Namrata, what is this part called? Janani, this part of tRNA is called site for attachment of Janani.
Amino acids.
Amino acid. Okay, now, so they wanted to postulate the presence of adapter molecule that would on one hand read the code. Which one read the code? Blessy. Which one read the code? Anticodon.
Anticodons.
Anticodon, the tRNA will read the code, and you should have on the other hand a specific region to bind amino acid. The tRNA then called sRNA. Remember, tRNA was first called sRNA, soluble RNA. Now we don't call it soluble RNA, but at the beginning it was called sRNA. The tRNA and sRNA are then one and the same. The tRNA then called sRNA was known before the genetic code was postulated. It was known. However, its role as an adapter molecule was assigned much later. No one knew how it acts as adapter molecule. No, but they knew about the tRNA or sRNA. Okay, right. Now look here. This is the tRNA. This is the tRNA. tRNA has an anticodon loop, which is what? This one. Anticodon loop. That has bases. I have told you, no, that has bases, 3 bases, that has bases complementary to the codon contained on mRNA. And it also has an amino acid acceptor end. This is a amino acid acceptor end. Amino acid acceptor to which it binds to amino acid. Amino acid acceptor to which it binds to amino acid. So this is what the structure of tRNA. You can have the screenshot of this. Have you understood? So what it has? tRNA is anticodon. Okay, and this anticodon is found of how many bases? 3 bases. And what is the specialty of these 3 bases? These 3 bases are complementary to the nitrogen bases present on mRNA. What we call them? Codon. So this is anticodon, and this is a amino acid binding end of the tRNA. Right? So tRNAs are specific for each amino acid. Now, my question, tRNA are specific for each amino acid. That means one particular amino acid can be picked up by one type of tRNA only. For each amino acid, there are specific tRNA. Now, my question to Siddesh. Siddesh, tell me how many tRNA should be there? Therefore, how many tRNA should be there? Siddesh? Siddesh?
Yes, sir.
Then I am telling that there is always one tRNA for particular amino acid. One amino acid, one tRNA. So, how many tRNA are there in a cell? Harshvardhan, have you not followed me? Siddesh, Charan,
Yes, sir.
Chinmay, hello, anyone? Anyone?
amino acid. Sir,
Pardon?
20 tRNA.
Pardon?
20 tRNA.
Who? Who said?
Rakesh, sir.
Rakesh, have you studied this in your regular college classes?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's what you're telling. Okay, then please keep. There are 20 tRNA. Now, can you tell me, Blessy, why it is a 20 tRNA?
Because there are 20 amino acids, sir.
There are 20 amino acids. Each amino acid has one specific tRNA. That tRNA has to bring that amino acid only. Now, this tRNA is concerned with what? Which amino acid? This tRNA is concerned with the serine. And this one is concerned with the tyrosine. So this amino acid and serine, which it has what type of anticodon? Anticodon is UCA. Remember, this amino acid, which is concerned with the serine always has anticodon UCA. So this can bring the tRNA with UC anticodon. It can always bring only serine amino acid, not tyrosine. If at all tyrosine has to be brought from the cytoplasm to the site of protein synthesis, what should be anticodon there? What should be anticodon? Kavita, what should be anticodon? If the tyrosine has to be poured, has to be brought to the site of protein synthesis, what should be the anticodon on this on this tRNA? Kavita.
Yes, sir.
Duty,
Sir.
what should be the anticodon? Anyone except Rakesh? Hello?
AUG.
Pardon?
AUG.
Who said it?
Vismita.
Visvita, right, AUG. So, I am repeating again. Ditya, you are not hearing. Kavita, you are not hearing. So, I am repeating. Each amino acid has a specific tRNA. If serine amino has to be brought from the cytoplasm to the site of protein synthesis, serine amino acid bringing tRNA has anticodon UCA. If the tyrosine has to be pulled, what should have the anticodon? Tyrosine carrying tRNA. Tyrosine bringing tRNA always has anticodon, what is called AUG. Understood? So, for initiation, there is another specific tRNA that is referred to as initiator tRNA. For initiation protein synthesis, there is a specific tRNA and it is referred to as initiator tRNA. There are no tRNAs for stop codon. Whatever stop codon you have, there is no tRNA for that. Understood? Clear? Very important sentence. Are you following me? Are you following me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt anyone has? Any doubt so far? Hello?
No, sir.
No, shall I go ahead? Right. In figure 6.12, the secondary structure of tRNA has been depicted that looks like a clover leaf. This is called clover leaf model of tRNA. In the last NEET examination, they have asked to the amino acid binding
Yes, sir.
site has to which site amino acid binds? 3 prime, 5 prime, both of these. You must remember that amino acid binding site always has a 3 prime. It is a 3 prime end. 3 prime of tRNA. To the 3 prime end of the tRNA, amino acid binds. It is the first time they ask the question in NEET exam. Understood? Not to the 5 prime. What is this actually? It is a tRNA. Understood? And what are these? Anticodon. And this an anticodon pairs with the codon of mRNA. Understood? Clear? Clear? Vishwas? Have you followed? Hello? Vishwas? Vishwas? ಯಾಕಪ್ಪ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲಿ? Hello? Are you there? Hello? Yeah. Vishwas, you are there. Vishwas? ಅನ್ಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಪ. ಯಾಕೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ? ವಿಶ್ವಾಸ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಯ್ತಾ?
ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ? ಓಕೆ, ನೀನು ATPU ಅಲ್ವಾ
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್.
ವಿಶ್ವಾಸ್? ATPU ಅಲ್ವಾ?
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
Okay. Is it understood? Let me know whether it is understood to you all. Shall I go ahead? Okay. Now, in actual structure, tRNA is a compact molecule which looks like an inverted L. Is it not? This is L. Is it not? It is inverted L? Inverted L. Okay? Inverted L. Right. Then, translation. Shall I go ahead with this? Shall I continue, Blessy? Diti? Namrata?
Yes, sir.
Melanie? Translation. What is translation? Translation refers to the process of polymerization of amino acid. What do you mean by polymerization? Polymerization means joining of amino acid with one another. Polymerization. So amino acids are connected or joined with one another. Translation refers to the process of polymerization of amino acid to form a polypeptide. You can see all these are amino acids. And these amino acids are joined or linked with one another, and that process is called polymerization. Now, let us study a little bit in detail. The order and sequence of amino acids are defined by the sequence of bases in mRNA. So, order and sequences of amino acids, which amino acid should come here? Which amino acid should come here? Is decided by codons on mRNA. And codons on mRNA are decided by codons on mRNA are decided by whom? Hello? Codons on mRNA. What type of codons should be there on mRNA? Who decides it?
The template strand.
Pardon?
Complementary to the DNA strand.
Rakesh, you please keep quiet because you have studied. And these people have not studied. And who said answer prior to that? A girl has answered. Who is that?
Me, sir. Navya.
Who?
Navya.
Navya. So, you know, the Navya, whether this is taught to you in the college?
Yes, sir.
Finished, huh?
Almost, sir. The last part.
Then you are not answering at all. I really wonder. Janani,
Yes, sir.
why you are not answering? Have you not understood this chapter? Navya?
Yes, sir.
Is it becoming more clearer to you now?
Yes, sir.
It is better? You feel better now? You are understanding concept better now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sarvotam, Vishwas, Charan, whether this is taught to you in the college? Whether this chapter is taught? Huh? Hello? Yes, Harshavardhan. Yeah,
Yes,
you
sir.
want to reply to me. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now you are understanding better or still you have the doubt?
Understanding, sir.
Okay, if at all you have doubt, you must ask me. Prathviraj,
Yes, sir.
you are understanding this concept better?
Yes, sir.
So, the order and sequence of amino acids are defined by the sequence of bases in mRNA. This in turn This in turn is decided by sequence of bases on DNA. Therefore, who is guiding the protein synthesis? The protein synthesis is always guided by DNA. This is what the central dogma. DNA is responsible for RNA synthesis. RNA is responsible for protein synthesis. Understood? Understood? Okay. So the amino acids are joined by a bond. You can see that these are all amino acids. They are joined. They are joined by a bond which is known as peptide bond. Again, important point. Amino acids are joined with one another by means of a peptide bond. Formation of a peptide bond requires energy. Therefore, in the first phase itself, amino acids are activated in the presence of ATP and linked to their cognate tRNA, that means the receptor tRNA, the relevant tRNA, a process commonly called charging of tRNA or amino acylation of tRNA. So, what is charging of tRNA? What is amino acylation of tRNA? Now, let me tell you, there is one tRNA. There is one tRNA. It is responsible for one amino acid. What it has? It has anticodon here. This tRNA, it goes to the cytoplasm searching its relevant amino acid. Now what happens? Amino acid comes and attaches here. I am showing a box. Amino acid comes and attaches here. When the amino acid comes and attaches to which end? Which end? 3' or 5'? Which end? Which
3
end?
prime.
Yeah. When it comes and attaches to 3' end, when the amino acid attaches to the 3' end of tRNA, we say that the tRNA is charged. It is called charging of tRNA, or it is also called amino acylation of tRNA. And this requires ATP. Understood? So once this amino acid is attached to tRNA, now this tRNA comes to the site of protein synthesis. What is the site of protein synthesis? Site of protein synthesis is a place where we see that the mRNA is in contact with is in attachment with the, what is this? Attachment with the ribosome. What is this? mRNA. So this tRNA should come here to the site of protein synthesis. Right? So if two such charged tRNAs are brought close enough, so you have one tRNA with one amino acid and another tRNA with another amino acid. When two such charged tRNA brought close enough, the formation of a peptide bond takes place between the two amino acids. Between them would be favored energetically. So the presence of a catalyst would enhance the rate of a peptide bond formation. Of course, enzyme is required for enhancing the formation of this peptide bond between the amino acid. Right? So the cellular factory responsible for synthetic protein is the ribosome. So you know, ribosome is the factory of protein synthesis. The ribosome consists of structural RNAs. He said that you have RNA. The ribosome consists of structural RNAs and about 80 different proteins. Remember, important. Ribosome, you know, ribosome will be always with the two units, one a smaller unit and then a larger unit. Ribosome consists of an RNA, you know, that is ribosomal RNA, structural RNA, and about 80 different proteins. It is inactive. In its inactive state, it exists as two subunits. A large subunit, you have large subunit separate, small subunit separate. Okay, large subunit separate, smaller subunit separate. So in its inactive state, it exists as two subunits, a large subunit and a small subunit. Right? When the small subunit encounters an mRNA, suppose it's mRNA, a small subunit encounters an mRNA, the process of translation of the mRNA to protein begins. When the small subunit encounters an mRNA, the process of translation of the mRNA to protein begins. It starts. But of course, this large unit also should come and attach to continue that. So this is what you have, large subunit of a ribosome. This is a small subunit of ribosome. All these pictures you have to take a photo screenshot because I can't give you the time. Understood? Are you understanding my point? So this is what you have, large subunit of ribosome. This is a small subunit of ribosome. This is mRNA. So Ribosomes are composed of two subunits. As you know, one small and one large. 4 binding sites are located on the ribosome. Very important. 4 binding sites are located on ribosome. 1 for mRNA and 3 for tRNA. 1 for mRNA. This is very important point. There are 4 binding sites on the ribosome. This is what you have the ribosome. This is what the ribosome have. And these 1 for mRNA, see, this is mRNA. 1 for mRNA. Ribosome has a binding site 1 for mRNA and 3 for tRNAs. Look here, these 3 for tRNAs. These 3 are for tRNAs. What are these sites? One site is called E site, another site is called P site, and one more site is called A site. You have 3 sites here. 3 sites here. Okay? So 3 sites for tRNA and 1 site for ribosome. The 3 tRNA sites are called P site, A site, E site. Are you following me? Are you following me? I know that this concept is not taught in the classroom, in your colleges. Prati, are you understanding? Namrata, Blessy,
Yes, sir.
please unmute yourself and tell me quickly. Don't waste my time. Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Navya,
Yes, sir.
shall I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Why your friend is not there? Kanisa, Aisha?
I don't know, sir. Maybe they must have not known we have class today.
What? No. Have you not seen
I'm not
me?
sure, sir. I'm not sure.
Okay. Right. Now you see, what are these 3 sites? What is that? One is a P site, and it's a site, and an E site. We must know, you can see that E site, P site, A site. And are you taking a screenshot of this? Vismita, Siddesh,
Yes, sir.
Vishwas?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you see. P site is called peptidyl site. Peptidyl site binds to the tRNA holding the growing polypeptide chain of amino acid. This is the P site. P site is called peptidyl site, binds to the tRNA holding, this is the P site, holding the growing polypeptide chain of amino acid. Okay, now A site, acceptor site, A site, binds to the amino acid tRNA, A site, this is what A site, A site binds to the amino acid tRNA. What do you mean by amino acid tRNA? Amino acid tRNA is tRNA which holds a new amino acid to be added to the polypeptide chain. So A site is for the incoming tRNA with the new amino acid. E site, exit site, it serves as a threshold. This is E site. The final transitory step before the tRNA now bereft of its amino acid is let to go by the ribosome. I repeat, E site is exit site. The E site is the exit site which is ready to go now. It is ready to go because once this amino acid brought, now the freshly formed amino acid attaches to this already formed amino acid chain, and now it is ready to go. So it is the site from where the already the tRNA which has contributed its amino acid to the protein chain, polypeptide chain, it is ready to go. I will show you now. So you have 3 sites. A site for the new tRNA to come. P site is for the continuation of this bonding of these amino acids with one another, and E site is for the tRNA which has contributed its amino acid to go there. Now let us see that. Look here. A site, amino acid tRNA site. This is a A site, amino acid tRNA site. Holds a tRNA carrying a next amino acid to be added to the chain. P site, peptidyl tRNA site, holds a tRNA carrying growing polypeptide chain. And E site, exit site, empty tRNA leaves ribosome from exit site. You please have this screenshot also. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Gayatri, Diti, Kavita, Blessy, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Are you understanding this point?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, see here. Now it is clear to you. What is this side? Tell me. Tell me. What is this side?
Pay side.
Anyone?
Pay side.
Acceptor side.
Why new TRN is coming? What you call this TRN now? What you call this TRNA? What do you call?
Acetyl tRNA.
Acetylation tRNA, acetyl tRNA, or a charged tRNA. So this is A site. And what is this site? What is this site? What is this site? You can see here, it is the P site where this, of course, here they have shown that it has come. They have already shown that it is attached here. Okay, they have shown tRNA with the sorry, no, this is yet to come. This has come and attached here, sitting here. Not this is this is would be A site. This is A site where newly arrived tRNA is sitting here, and this is a P site, and this P site has already formed a growing peptide chain. So now this attaches. This newly arrived amino acid attaches to. Once this attaches, what will happen to this? So now once it attaches, what is this site will become? What this site will become? Once it contributed, it becomes a E site. Let me repeat again. So when a freshly arrived tRNA comes, it comes and sits here. Now let us say it is a P site. P site. Already you have a growing chain. Now I am telling this is A site. A site. A site, it brings a new amino acid. Once it brings a new amino acid, there will be bonding with the already formed amino acid. Ester bond will be there. Peptide bond will be there. After that, now what this will become now? What this site will become? First it was A site. Now it becomes what?
E side.
This becomes a P site. And this becomes a
E side.
E site.
E side.
Understood? Is it clear? So, I repeat again. You have here. This is P site where there's a growing a polypeptide chain. And this A site is waiting for whom? Waiting for new charged tRNA. When it comes here, one tRNA comes and sits here. What will happen? The bonding takes place between already formed amino acid and new amino acid. Once the bonding takes place, this A gets converted to P.
E side.
P gets converted into E. Because once amino acid is given, then this is become free and it is ready to go now. Look here. Now, this is outgoing tRNA. Is it charged or non-charged? Now, is it charged? No, it has already given. Its amino acid. So you see that in the peptidyl site, P site, there is always a attachment of one amino acid to another one. So always the fresh amino acid gets added to the already formed growing peptide chain in the P site. Once this P site, that freshly added amino acid gets changed, the P site, later it becomes a E site because this chain is given to the new one. So always the growing peptide chain is given to the newly arrived mRNA, newly arrived tRNA. And now this becomes a separate without this amino acid, and it is outgoing emptying tRNA. Have you followed this? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Is it
Yes, sir.
or any doubt? Do you have any doubt? Anyone wants me to explain this again? No. There are two sites in a large subunit. For subsequent amino acids to bind to and thus be close enough to each other for the formation of peptide bond. The ribosome also acts as catalyst enzyme. 23S rRNA in bacteria is enzyme ribozyme. Very important. This ribosome, when it acts as enzyme, it is a 23 years rRNA acts as a ribosome for the formation of peptide bond. So we said that ribosomal RNA it acts as a catalyst. So this is required for the formation of peptide bond. Peptide bond is formed between the amino acids. So here, a transitional unit in mRNA. Transition unit means it is a temporal unit. A transition unit in mRNA is a sequence of RNA that is flanked by the start codon. A transitional unit. Just a minute, I shall see that with the right. A transition unit in mRNA. What you have, this is mRNA. Please remember, this diagram is not given in your NCERT book, but very, very important diagram. Otherwise, you will not understand what is given here. A transitional unit in mRNA is a sequence of RNA that is flanked by start codon, AUG, and the stop codon and codes for a polypeptide. So whenever protein synthesis has to take place, it should start and it should end. At the beginning, to start protein synthesis, we have a codon called start codon, AUG. And please tell me, this also, it codes for amino acid. What is that amino acid?
Methionine.
Methionine. And there is a stop codon. What is the amino acid stop codon codes for? Stop codon codes for what type of amino acid?
No amino acids.
No amino acid. Very good. Very good. So, an mRNA also has some additional sequences. mRNA also has some additional sequences that are not translated. What do you mean by that? That are not translated means they are not concerned with the coding amino acid. That are not translated and are referred to as an untranslated region, UTR. Untranslated region, UTR. UTR. So the UTRs are present at both 5' end before start codon, CN, 5' UTR before start codon, and at 3' end after stop codon. After stop codon, 3' end. Right? What are these? These are UTRs, untranslated region. I am 100% sure this is not taught to you in this much of detail in the classroom. Have you learned this, Navya?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you not asked with the sir, what is that UTR, where it is present?
No, sir.
Why? Siddesh, whether it is taught? Harshvardhan?
No, sir.
Prithviraj, have you studied this in the last year?
No, sir.
Namrata, have you studied? So, therefore, an mRNA also has some additional sequences. Additional sequences that are not translated. That means they are not coding for any amino acid and that are referred to as untranslated region. And these untranslated regions are present at both 5' end before the start of codon and at 3' end after the start of the codon. They are required for efficient translation process. Have you taken a screenshot of this? Yes? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So this you know. I hope you know. Capping, poly A tail, tailing. This you know. This all takes place when the HNRNA is converted into mRNA. Understood? Okay. Any doubt? Any doubt? Janani?
Yes,
Shall we
sir.
go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. For initiation, the ribosome binds to the mRNA at the start codon. For initiation of protein synthesis, the ribosome binds to the mRNA at the start codon. What is the start codon? AUG. That is recognized only by initiator tRNA. Initiator tRNA. Okay. So initiator tRNA is the one with the AUG. The ribosome proceeds to the elongation phase of protein synthesis. Look here, it binds mRNA, this start codon. So it binds here, it binds. So you have the small unit, you will come across big unit also. and then it starts moving. During this stage, complexes composed of an amino acid linked to tRNA sequentially bind to the appropriate codon in mRNA by forming complementary base pairs with the tRNA anticodon. So you see here, all these are codons. All these are codons in mRNA. So first we require a start codon with the AUG. Then you come across whatever relevant tRNA are there, they should come. And the relevant tRNA, what do you mean by that? Relevant tRNA means the tRNAs with having complementary bases here, complementary bases to this codon. There will not be any punctuation, there will not be any comma, there will not be any stop. It is a continuous process. Continuous process, right? The ribosome moves from codon to codon along the mRNA. It moves from codon to codon. It moves from codon to codon. So from here, if this is one, then it moves from codon to codon. It moves along the mRNA. It starts at AUG and at one point it should stop where there is to stop codon. It continues. So ribosomes moves from codon to codon along the mRNA. Amino acids are added one by one, translated into polypeptide sequences dictated by DNA. This is what I said. The protein synthesis is dictated by DNA. Why? It is the DNA that dictates what type of mRNA has to be produced. The codons that are present in mRNA is decided by DNA. Only in that part of DNA where that particular codon of mRNA required, there only the transcription takes place. Okay, so the polypeptide sequence is dictated by DNA and represented by mRNA. So DNA, it sends a message for protein synthesis through its messenger. Who is the messenger? mRNA's messenger. At the end, a release factor binds to the stop codon. You have already heard about the two factor. What is that two factor? One at the beginning and then at the end. What is at the beginning?
Sigma
Start.
What is at the end?
rho factor.
Rho factor. At the end, a release factor binds to stop codon, terminating translation and releasing the complete polypeptide from the ribosome. Look here. It is it is the last one, release factor. That's over. Once this release factor, rho factor is there, now it has a stop codon, UAG, UAA, or UGA, any one of these. Okay. Now, whatever the protein started, it stops. After that, you can see all these polypeptides, they become free, they get detached. And once the polypeptide synthesis is over, the ribosomes also get detached, mRNA becomes separate, and all these, they get mRNA gets dissolved. It gets degenerated. Right? Clear? Is it clear? Now, let us study regulation of gene expression. Yes, come on. Anyone has any doubt? Janani, Nadira, Namrata, Blessy, Kavita, Diti, Jayasri. Any doubt? Sarottam, Vishwas, Vismita. Any doubt?
No, sir.
Nadira.
No, sir.
Shall I go ahead? Please read. Please read. And if at
No,
all you
sir.
don't understand, please message me. We shall talk to each other. I shall clarify your doubt. Now, let us see regulation of gene expression. Regulation of gene expression refers to a very broad term that may occur at various levels. Considering that gene expression results in the formation of polypeptide. Always I said gene expression means synthesis of a protein or polypeptide. It can be regulated at several levels. One, in eukaryotes, the regulation could be exerted at transcription level, that is formation of primary transcript, that is mRNA, processing level, that is the regulation of splicing, then transport of mRNA from nucleus to cytoplasm, and a translation level. So first transcription, that is mRNA getting formed from DNA, and at that time you would come across exon, introns, and all these introns should be cut and exons should be joined. That is what is called a processing level or regulation of splicing. Then from the hnRNA, whatever mRNA is formed, it has to move to cytoplasm, and after moving the cytoplasm, that the translation should take place, resulting in the synthesis of relevant polypeptide chain. the genes in a cell are expressed to perform a particular function or a set of function. Always a gene expression means a particular relevant protein getting synthesized. And that protein may be required to build up one or the other body part, what is a structural protein, or some of the proteins are required to do one or the other function. You know, your almost all enzymes are made up of protein, and you have many of these hormones, they are made up of protein. For example, if an enzyme called beta galactosidase, I say enzyme, and this beta galactosidase is synthesized by E. coli, Escherichia coli. It is used to catalyze hydrolysis of disaccharide. Hydrolysis means breaking down of disaccharide into monosaccharide. When you break down with the help of water is called hydrolysis. And you must know, I hope you might have learned already, you know you have three types of sugar. What is one is a monosaccharide, disaccharide, and polysaccharide. So here, the enzyme beta-galactosidase is synthesized by E. coli, and this beta-galactosidase is used to break down or to catalyze the disaccharide lactose into monosaccharide like galactose and glucose. The bacteria use them as a source of energy. Now let me tell you, you require breaking down of disaccharide like lactose, and this disaccharide should get converted into monosaccharide like galactose and glucose. Once monosaccharides are formed, bacteria absorbs it and derives the energy from it. To break down this lactose, we require an enzyme. Enzymes are of a proteinaceous nature, and this enzyme is called beta-galactosidase. Beta-galactosidase production is a part of a gene. A gene is concerned with that this particular protein should become active when there is a lactose. Hence, if the bacteria do not have lactose around them, my question to Blessy, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If the bacteria do not have lactose around them to get the energy, do you think that beta-galactosidase is required?
No, sir.
No. So there is no need for the production of this enzyme. So if the bacteria do not have lactose around them to be utilized for energy source, they would no longer require the synthesis of enzyme beta-galactosidase. Okay? Vismita, understood? Vismita, understood?
Yes, sir.
Vismita. Right. Now, therefore, in simple terms, it is the metabolic, physiological, or environmental conditions that regulate the expression of genes. In what way you say it is the environmental condition that regulates the expression of gene? Here, environment means in the environment of bacteria, there should be lactose. If the lactose is not there, disaccharide, lactose is not there, that synthesis of enzyme beta-galactosidase will not be there. Beta-galactosidase is not there, synthesis means gene expression is not there. Therefore, in simple terms, it is a metabolic, physiological, or environment condition that regulate the gene expression. The development and differentiation of embryo into adult, development and differentiation of embryo growing adult organism are also a result of coordinated regulation of expression of several sets of genes. I said gene expression may bring about the synthesis of structural protein or functional protein. Structural protein enables the embryo to grow into adult. Structural protein. So embryo when growing, it develops and it differentiates the different parts in the body. All these are found of one or the others are found of either protein or the carbohydrate. So in this way, for the growth of embryo into adult, we require an expression of several sets of genes. Right? Now, in prokaryotes, control of the rate of transcription initiation is the predominant site for control of gene expression. Control of rate of transcriptional initiation. That means the moment the transcription gets over, the moment mRNA gets over, It is very important because there is no question of mRNA getting processed and going to outside cytoplasm, because transcription and translation both takes place in the cytoplasm itself in the prokaryotes. In a transcription unit, the activity of RNA polymerase at a given promoter is in turn regulated by interaction with the accessory proteins, which affect its ability to recognize the start site. In a transcription unit. In a transcription unit means, it is a structural gene. Along with that, at the other end, you come across the promoter gene. On the other side, you come across a terminator gene, and you do also come across a UTR at the 5' and 3'. All these together form a transcription unit. In a transcription unit means whatever that gets transcribed from that of the DNA. In a transcription, the activity of RNA polymerase is very much required for the formation of mRNA from DNA. At a given promoter is in turn regulated by interaction with the accessory protein, which affects its ability to recognize the start site. I will be pinpointing this later when I finish that Lac-Operon model. So these regulatory proteins, that means there are certain regulatory proteins which can act both positively as activator or negatively as a repressor. Now, as you know, for any of this mRNA formation to take place or protein synthesis to take place, as you know, there is a start codon, there is a stop codon. Even for the start codon to function or stop codon to function, there are some proteins directing that. Therefore, there are certain accessory proteins, and these accessory proteins which have the ability to recognize the start site and regulate the interaction. I shall explain that once I finish the Lac-Operon. These regulatory proteins can act both positively as activator or negatively as repressor. The accessibility of a promoter region of a prokaryotic DNA is in many cases regulated by interaction proteins with sequences of termed operators. Again, we shall study this once you know the details, it becomes easy for you. The operator region, there is a region called operator region. It is actually concerned with the regulatory accessory protein. So there is a operator region. The operator region is adjacent to the promoter element. We have already heard about promoter, already heard about the terminator. Operator region is adjacent to the promoter element in most operons, and in most cases, sequence of the operator bind a repressor protein. Sequences of the operator bind a repressor protein. Each operon has its specific operator and specific repressor. We shall study that. I shall come back to all these points again. For example, Lac operator is present only in the Lac-Operon and interacts specifically with the Lac repressor only. What are these? Once we start studying Lac-Operon, it becomes very much clear. It will become very much clear to you what is operator, what is a repressor. Okay. Now, Lac-Operon. Okay. I shall tell the gist here. Lac-Operon, the elucidation or clarification of the Lac-Operon was also a result of close association between a geneticist, Francis Jacob, and a biochemist, Jacques Monod. So we say that it is a Jacob and Monod model. So geneticists, two geneticists, Jacob and Monod, they brought about details of Lac-Operon function. They were the first to explain a transcriptionally regulated system. Transcriptionally regulated system means they have showed how this transcription is regulated by the protein. In a Lac-Operon, here Lac refers to lactose. Remember, lactose concerned, or the model which is concerned with the lactose utilization is called a Lac-Operon. In Lac-Operon, a polycistronic structural gene having many cistrons is regulated by a common promoter and a regulatory gene. We have to see what is a promoter gene, what is a regulatory gene. Such an arrangement is very common in bacteria and is referred to as operon. Okay, now let us see here. To name few such examples, I have said lacoperon is for lactose. Tryptophan is for tryptophan. Araoperon is for arabinose. Histoperon is for histidine. Valoperon for valine. To just make use of these different substrates, we have different operon functioning under the direction of the genes. So now let us say you have the lac operon consists of one regulatory gene. So you have already heard that there are what is called regulatory sequences. I hope you remember. I have mentioned that there are certain regulatory sequences, and these regulatory sequences, they do not code for any amino acid. They do not code for amino acid, any amino acid. Even then, they are called regulatory gene. Regulatory gene. So the lac operon consists of one regulatory gene, that is I gene. This one, I gene, a regulatory gene. Here, the term I does not refer to inducer, not inducer, does not refer to inducer. Rather, it is derived from the word inhibitor, I for inhibitor. And three structural genes are there. They are Z, Y, A. These are the three structural genes. And what you have here, I is a regulatory gene. And this regulatory gene is not inducing. It is not an inducer. This I gene in the lacoperon, the regulatory gene I is not inducer, but it is an inhibitor. It is inhibitor. How it inhibits? Let us say it inhibits the functioning of ZYA. It inhibits the ZYA gene from functioning. Let us see how. Okay, so this is very important. Have the screenshot of this. Now, look here. Next, I gene codes for the repressor. It codes for the repressor of the lacoperon. It is not inducer, it is a repressor. It is not inducer, it is an inhibitor. I gene codes for repressor. So, this is a repressor mRNA. It codes for repressor. I gene codes for repressor. So, when it codes for repressor mRNA, the result is production of repressor molecule. There will be repressor molecule gets formed. Repressor molecule, right? So what it does? Now let us look into the other. There is a gene called Z gene. Z gene codes for beta galactosidase. A protein, beta galactosidase, which is primarily responsible for the hydrolysis of a disaccharide lactose into monosaccharide galactose and glucose. Let me tell you, you have a gene called Z gene. Z gene, it codes for the protein. Z gene codes for the protein. These proteins form what enzyme? These proteins form an enzyme called beta galactosidase. Beta galactosidase. Why is beta galactosidase required? Beta galactosidase is required to convert lactose into glucose and galactose. Right? Here is that gene. Now, you have another gene, what is called Y gene. Y gene codes for another enzyme called permease. Y gene codes for another enzyme called permease, which increases the permeability of the cell to beta galactosides. Beta galactoside. So you heard about the beta galactoside. This beta galactoside, it should pass through the membrane of the bacteria. So for that, we require permease. Beta galactosidase is an enzyme, and it should function. For that functioning, it should pass through the membrane of the bacteria. The A gene here, this is A gene, it encodes a transacetylase. Okay, A gene encodes the function called transacetylase, about which there is no clear details of this. But remember, ZYA gene, these three genes are required. Z gene is required to produce beta galactosidase, and Y gene is required to produce permease, and A gene is required to encode transacetylase. All these three genes are required for the lactose to get converted into glucose and galactose. And once it gets converted to glucose and galactose, the E. coli bacteria can use it for its energy, for the derivation of energy. Hence, all the three gene products in lac operon are required for metabolism of lactose. Metabolism of lactose means conversion of lactose into glucose and galactose. In most other operons as well, the genes present in operon are needed together to function in the same or related metabolic pathway. Right? Now I have mentioned about I gene. What is the role of I gene? What is it? Regulatory gene? Hello? Are you there?
Codes for repressor.
Yeah, codes for repressor. I gene codes for repressor. When I gene codes for repressor, what happens, This I gene, which codes for repressor, this repressor, it goes and binds to operator gene. It goes and binds to operator gene. Repressor binds to the operator gene, operator region, and prevents RNA polymerase from transcribing the operon. So when this repressor gene goes and binds to operator gene, operator region, now the RNA polymerase cannot function. RNA polymerase will not function, means ZYA gene will not work. Operon model will not work. When ZYA gene will not work, beta-galactosidase or permease or transacetylase, none of these are produced. Lactose is not hydrolyzed. That means lac operon is not working. So who is responsible for lac operon not to work? Who is responsible? Who is responsible?
Repressor.
Repressor molecule. Repressor molecule is produced by whom?
Hygiene.
I gene.
I gene.
I gene in lac operon, it prevents this repressor I gene by the production of repressor molecule, prevents lac operon from functioning. Okay, now what happens? Let us think that. So, right? Now, lactose is the substrate. Whenever the lactose is present, this happens when there is no lactose. When there is no lactose, this is the situation. When there is no lactose in substrata, there is no need for lac operon to function. So, who is keeping the lac operon non-functioning? It is this inhibitory gene. Inhibitory gene. Now, when the lactose is present, when the lactose substrate for the enzyme beta-galactosidase, when lactose is a substrate for the enzyme beta-galactosidase, it regulates switching on. Switching on. Lactose is the substrate for the enzyme beta-galactosidase and it regulates switching on and off of the operon. So, now it is termed as inducer. What is the term as inducer? When lactose is present, lac operon starts functioning. When the lactose is completely utilized, lac operon stop functioning. Okay? So, now what happens? You have lactose. So, lactose is a substrate and it acts as a inducer. What happens when the lactose is there in the medium? It binds to, who is this? It binds to repressor and makes the repressor defunct. So when the lactose is present, lactose is inducer. It goes and binds to the repressor. Now repressor is helpless. Otherwise, what repressor has to do? The repressor its a function is going to operator gene and making lac operon non-functional. Now, repressor is tightly held by whom? Hello?
I gene.
Repressor is now made inactive by inducer. Who is inducer? Lactose. Now,
Lactose.
lactose binds to the repressor and makes this repressor inactive. When the repressor is inactive, it cannot go and bind to operator region. So operator region. Now what can work? Which will work now? RNA polymerase works. RNA polymerase allows ZY gene to get transcribed. Transcription takes place. relevant lac mRNA is produced, and this lac mRNA, it goes to cytoplasm and makes the beta-galactosidase, permease, and transacetylase to be produced. So these enzymes are required for metabolizing lactose. You tell me, once the lactose gets exhausted, what will happen? What will happen? Once the lactose got exhausted, what will happen? Quick.
The protein
What will
will
happen?
bind to operator.
Repressor will bind operator.
Repressor will bind to
Operator
operator region, and what will happen? Lac operon stops functioning. Understood? Understood? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Is it clear? So, in the absence of a preferred carbon source such as glucose, if lactose is provided in the growth medium of the bacteria, the lactose is transported into cells through the action of permease, okay, right? And the lactose then induces operon in the following manner. So, when the lactose is present, lac operon works. When the lactose is absent, lac operon stops functioning, right? The repressor of the operon is synthesized. Who synthesizes repressor? The repressor of the operon is synthesized from the I gene. The repressor protein binds to the operator region of the operon and prevents RNA polymerase from transcribing the operon. Understood? In the presence of an inducer, such as a lactose or allolactose, the repressor is inactivated by interaction with the inducer. This allows RNA polymerase access to the promoter and transcription proceeds. Essentially, regulation of lac operon can also be visualized as a regulation of enzyme synthesis by its substrate in general. Understood? Clear? Clear? Remember, glucose or galactose cannot act as inducer for lac operon. Glucose or galactose. Only lactose can act as an inducer. Can you, okay? Regulation of lac operon by repressor is referred as a negative regulation. Negative regulation. Lac operon by repressor. If the lactose is present, it works. If the lactose is absent, it stops. Okay? Lac operon is under control of positive regulation as well, but it is beyond the scope of discussion here. Understood? And I will be taking up in my next class, Human Genome Project. Is it clear? You please read this. And if you don't have any doubt, please call me personally and try to understand. And in my next class, in next week on Tuesday, I'll be taking up Human Genome Project, maybe required for about half an hour. Then I'll take up MCQs for discussion, which you will see today. I'm posting it in a Google Classroom. Okay? Right. See you. Have a good day.